Welcome back to the Rami Lavi podcast. My name is Rami Lavi. Today is, it's late already. So it's early Monday morning, April 15th, but officially this is the episode for April 14th. This is what we're going to be doing. Just a quick daily conversation. And today starts very simply with the fact that Jalen Brunson and what the New York Knicks did this season as we head into the playoffs for both the Knicks and the Rangers. Obviously, the Rangers have one more game today, Monday, but the Knicks they close out the regular season in maybe the most perfect way they could have closed the regular season, considering how this season has gone. A tight game, a game they had to battle back in, a game that went back and forth, and they showed grittiness, they showed toughness. And in an Eastern Conference where it seemed like nobody wanted the 2 seed. We don't want the 2 seed because we have to play the winner of Miami and Philadelphia. Oh, I'm so scared of Miami and Philadelphia. I'm not scared. If you're thinking rationally, if you're thinking logically, sure, Philly is tough because they've won 8 in a row. Embiid doesn't look healthy, but he's back at least. So maybe like in the second round, he wouldn't be healthy, but in the first round, he might still be healthy. That's a little bit scary. Miami, on the other hand, hasn't been good all year and hasn't found their identity all year, and even down the stretch struggled. So I'm not so scared of Miami. But the point is, it doesn't matter. This Knicks team is good, and what they proved tonight or today at Madison Square Garden is they went out there and they said, we don't care. We screw all the noise. We can beat anyone. There is no team in the league. And they proved it on Thursday night when they beat up on the Celtics. And don't tell me they weren't trying. I know it's different. The Knicks were the more desperate team in that game. The Celtics were still playing that game to win. You play every game to win in the NBA. And the Knicks went in there and crushed them. And tonight, it was just another situation where Jalen Brunson knew he had to take over in order for the Knicks to win this game. And he did it again. Jalen Brunson is the definition of MVP. Now, the MVP in the NBA goes to the best player in the league. I'm okay with that. Give it to the best player in the league. That's fine. But Jalen Brunson has been every bit the definition of what MVP is. And if you look at the stats, I'll pull them up real quick. The stats tell you one story, but forget about the stats themselves. There's so much more to what Jalen Brunson does than just the stats. And the stats I saw were he has 6 games where he's had 30 points and 10 plus assists. That's first in the NBA. He has 30-point games in the league on the season. That's first in the NBA, tied first in the NBA. 11 40-point games on the season. That's tied second in the NBA. His total points, he's third in the NBA. Points per game, third in the NBA, 28 and at 28.7 points per game. 3-pointers made, fifth in the NBA. The stats are MVP stats, and then you consider everything around it. You consider that this team and think about so much that happened this season, going all the way back to the beginning of the season, the strong start, the struggles, the trade. Remember the day of the trade? I remember where I was. I was at WFAN. I was sitting there freaking out. Dexter Henry had to talk me off a ledge. He's like, dude, I promise you this is going to be good. This is going to be good for this team. And they go into Indiana that night with a depleted team and they get their asses kicked. And it's like, oh my God, what's happening? Then the January run, how good the team was. And he was the leader of that. But then OG gets hurt and Julius gets hurt and Mitchell Robinson gets hurt. And throughout all of it, who's the constant? Who's the one who's always healthy, who's always carrying the team? And then he goes down that one game where he gets hurt. It looks like, oh my God, it might not happen. He might not get up. And then he comes back again after getting hurt. He comes back. He plays every game. He plays his heart out. He carries this team whenever they need a bucket. And he makes everyone around him better. And then Mitchell Robinson gets healthy. And Isaiah Hartenstein gets healthy. And OG Anunoby comes back quickly, but then gets hurt again, and then he comes back. Then we find out Randall's going to have surgery to end the season. Everything that happened. The Houston game. I mean, think about that. How much we cared about that in the moment. That this Houston loss, this sucks. You're screwing us. And then for all that, for this team to have won 50 games, and for this team to be the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, I don't care what any other team is dealing with. No one thought that this Knicks team could be a 2 seed and win 50 games. And that's why they went out there today against the Bulls. And when people, fans, idiots were saying, oh, we want the 3 seed, we're scared. They said, we're not scared. We're going to go out here and we're going to do what we've done all year long. We're going to play our hearts out. We're going to play our asses off. And sure, might they lose at the first round? I don't know. But I'm not thinking about the first round right now. They went out and did what they had to do behind their MVP, the league MVP in Jalen Brunson, a special, special superstar that we are so lucky to get to watch on a nightly basis. And now for at least 4 more games, we get to watch him starting on Saturday, whether it's against Philly, whether it's against Miami. Bring it the fuck on, because I want to see that guy, Jalen Brunson, go out there and take on that challenge when everyone said that it couldn't happen. They're now 19-2, him and OG Anunoby in the games they played together. 19-2. So it's not just a small sample size. This team is one of the best teams, and no one in the league scares me. And sure, Luka had an incredible year, and what SGA did is incredible, and Jokic is the best player in the world. Great. I watch Jalen Brunson every night. I didn't watch those other guys every single night. That's true. Jalen Brunson is the MVP of the league, in my opinion. Does it go to the most valuable player? No. So I don't expect him to win it. It always goes to the best player. But over the last week, and it's crazy that it's happening at this point in the season, because every time we put a ceiling on Jalen Brunson, he elevates it. And it feels like since we've heard the news that Julius Randle's definitely not coming back, Jalen Brunson transformed himself again. And now I can confidently say Jalen Brunson can be the best superstar on a championship caliber team. I am 100% certain of it. He doesn't need to be the second guy. He doesn't need to be the third guy. He doesn't need to be the perfect point guard. He's a guy who came to New York as a role player, playing next to Luka Doncic, came here and developed and blossomed and took on the whole city, everything, overrated, overpaid, everything that people said about him, came here and turned into a superstar. When was the last time the Knicks had that? A guy who was not expected to be the superstar and then became not just a superstar, but the superstar that could be the superstar on a championship team. There's not a lot of guys in the league. There's a handful of guys in the league that can be a number one on a championship team. Jalen Brunson is one of those guys. He's the greatest small guard I've ever seen. I don't remember a ton of Iverson, obviously, the end of his career. I never saw Zeke play, Isaiah Thomas. I get that. From what I've seen, this is the greatest small guard. His impact on winning, I mean, tonight, the 40 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. It's just, and every time they need a bucket, he goes in there, he's fearless. And his development over the last few months, which has been most impressive, is with everyone blitzing him, everyone double teaming, triple teaming him, sending multiple guys at him, hitting him in the backcourt, picking him up 90 feet. It doesn't matter. He starts running around off ball, and it's allowed the Knicks offense to start moving more because all of a sudden Brunson's running around off ball, trying to get himself open, and it causes chaos, and everyone else gets an easy shot because of it. This guy is a superstar that impacts winning like no one I've ever seen on the Knicks in my lifetime. Better than Carmelo. I never saw Ewing. I get it. But just realize how special this is going to be between them, the Rangers, on a nightly basis. Now, quickly into the baseball, and then we'll wrap it up. The baseball story is interesting. I'm really excited for Knicks playoffs. I'm so fired up. I hope I get to a game. We'll see how that goes. The baseball is interesting because for the Yankees, it's different. It is different this year. And as much as today's game against Cleveland felt like a 2023 game, mistakes on the base paths, stranded runners, so many mistakes in the field, going up in the 9th inning or in the 10th inning, and then the bullpen blowing it again when it feels like the bullpen doesn't have enough depth. It felt like it was a game that exposed a lot of things that might be wrong with his team. And then you look up and they're 12-4. So why am I so certain that it's different despite a game that felt exactly like a game that would have been out of last year that I would have been yelling and screaming about? And maybe it's because the record and they're 12-4 and ultimately their true colors will show, just like it happened in 2022, where after a while, these mistakes and these bad things caught up to them and eventually the team veered off. No, well, as much as Aaron Boone will say, no, we're still, it's always the same mindset. We always take every game seriously. The lineup we saw today was not the punt lineup. And I talked so much about the punt lineup last year. We're on Sundays. If they had the series won already, punt, who cares? We don't care. We'll just put whoever out there. Aaron Judge is going to sit. Giancarlo is going to sit. Doesn't matter. We're not seeing that. Aaron Judge went out and played center field the day after a doubleheader. The punt lineup is dead. The desperation is there with this team. So there is an extra sense, and I talked about this, and maybe we'll get into this later this week when the Knicks aren't the main topic, but I want to make this show the main topic be the Knicks, so we'll keep it with that, and we'll talk about Juan Soto and what he brings to this team a little bit later. But the thing with the Yankees, and specifically the intent that this team has, if they are this intent on winning, and you see it in a game in April where they had the series won and the day after a doubleheader, and they're still putting their top lineup out there, and even in the doubleheader, they put back-to-back the same lineup, then I believe that at the trade deadline, when they need to make things happen because they need a bullpen arm, they might even need another starting pitcher, we'll see. And who knows what happens with DJ LeMahieu, maybe they need another infielder. I believe that Brian Cashman has the same level of desperation. This is organization-wide. This is not just an Aaron Boone thing and putting the starting lineup together. This is not just Juan Soto and every at bat and how intent he is on every pitch. And the development and of Volpe, and right away you put him to the top of the lineup because you realize that he developed that quickly and you didn't wait, making moves quicker and more definitively and acting in the moment, not just being passive like they were in the past. I think that's going to change also with the deadline. They're going to constantly try and improve the team. You're already seeing the roster has shifted a few times, whether it was the John Birdie trade or some of the relievers they're trading for. This is a different mindset that this Yankee team has. And I struggled with, they're not all in earlier. And this was my first show on WFAN. The Yankees say they're all in, but they're not. And they're not all in the sense that maybe I wanted them to be, which was go spend every dollar, go trade prospects. We're all in for 2024. They're all in the sense, though, that within reason to them, they're going to do everything. They're going to put every little thing matters this year. And that's what all in means to them. It means that every at bat, every game, there's no wasted lineups. There's no punt games. They're making sure they trade for the top relievers, backup infielders, trying to get it so that they believe they could put themselves in the best position to win. And that's why I think they're going to ultimately bring Garrett Cole back and not let him get surgery, until at least he tries to come back and make a comeback without surgery. So there's a lot to like from the Yankees. Now to the Mets real quick, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll be back tomorrow. So lots of fun stuff to talk about. I'm hopefully going to be doing this every day. So with the Mets was so Metsian today because it's raining. There's a 25-minute delay. The seats are half empty for the Doc Gooden celebration. I was making as many cocaine jokes as I could. I said, be careful driving. There's a lot of bumps in the parking lot, apparently. The other thing I said was get there early because I heard the lines, especially in the bathroom, are crazy. Whatever. People didn't like the cocaine Doc Gooden jokes. It's fine. But they're unveiling the number, and it's like two guys standing on the roof. They couldn't have had it automated. It's like two guys standing on the roof fumbling with it in the rain. The whole thing's ridiculous. And then the Mets go out there and they can't hit at all. But Jose Butto, and I think that's his name, but I've only heard ever Frank the Tank say the name. So he goes out there, he shoves, and maybe you actually have a picture here. I talk so much also on WFAN about Carrasco and about, or not Carrasco, but about Maena and about some of these other guys, Severino, and said maybe one of them is the guy that steps up, right? And it turns out that maybe this guy, Butto, is the guy who steps up all along. And then obviously, we had the setback, of course, with Kodai Senga. We'll see what happens with that, but maybe he comes back. So the Mets, as Metsian as the whole day was, and it really was, ultimately they get a great win. They win another series. And considering where they were, almost leaving here, 0-7 to start the season, but they win that last game with the Pete Alonso home run. They didn't salvage anything from that first homestand. They go on the road. They win 2 or 3 in Cincinnati. And then, of course, even bigger than that, they take 2 or 3. And the last game was just an ass whooping in Atlanta. And then you come home and you take 2 or 3 again. It feels different for the Mets than it did just a week ago. So as Metsian as it was on the day that they're honoring Doc, and it felt like everything that could go wrong kind of did go wrong a little bit for some of the time during that game, ultimately the Mets pulled it together, found a way to win that game in dramatic fashion. Edwin Diaz gets to come in with his first save opportunity of the season, play the trumpets. Sure, he gave up a home run, but who cares? You win in the end, so it doesn't matter. And now you have another team coming to town, Pittsburgh, who's been on fire, but I don't know if Pittsburgh's this great. So you have a bunch of games this week against Pittsburgh. You have it lined up. You have Hauser against Perez, who's been incredible tomorrow. So it's just another opportunity. Quintana, who's been really good to start the season. The Mets have a real opportunity here to just right the ship in a way that I don't think anyone a week ago would have expected that they would have had this opportunity to do. And that's what's important about what's gone on over the last week with the Mets. So as Metsian as today was, it's always going to be like that. They're still the Mets. But I still believe this is a team that can rally and now try and work towards that 80-something win season and be alive for a wild card chase. And that's all we could expect from this team. Hopefully JD Martinez, I don't know what the hell's happening with him. We'll talk about him a little bit later, but that's what's going on. Tomorrow night, we'll talk about the Rangers. Maybe I'll tell you my Juan Soto bit. Maybe I'll save it for later in the week, but we'll talk about the Mets and Yankee games depending. I hope to do this as often as possible, just quick New York sports. Maybe sometimes I'll talk about my career and different industry things, stuff like that. One of the things I did want to hit on, actually, and so we'll do it right now. There's no one rushing me for anything. Was Tim Capstraw, the capper, who I got to work with this year. He is the color analyst, and sometimes it's just him solo, like for the Nets games when Carino's not there and they don't have Bogish or whoever the backups are. But I've gotten to work on the Nets broadcast this winter, and I know the last time I was on this podcast, I talked so much about my career and stuff like that, and so it's been a while. So it's good to be back doing this on this platform. But the Tim Capstraw had his 1900th consecutive game. There's like 22 seasons straight of not missing a broadcast, something ridiculous like that. So congrats to him. He's so much fun, such a pro, such a fun guy to work with. We kind of talk, joke during the commercial breaks, stuff like that, and he's always great. Him and Carino's great too, but their broadcast is really, really good. Their radio broadcast and the capper, everyone loves them. So it's a fun time to hear him and to see him get celebrated today made me like appreciate my role. It's weird, but it's like I got to sit in on some of those broadcasts, hear the conversation during the commercial break, even if I'm not talking to them. Sometimes I am talking to them, and just be a little bit, at least this season, a part of that broadcast team was kind of cool. And then to see them get celebrated and see how much that, I'm not a Nets fan. I didn't really know, Carino and the capper before this season, but to see how celebrated they are made me realize again how fortunate I am and how lucky I am to get to work with them and have that opportunity. So that was just cool again today. So just shout out to him. So that's going to do it for me on this episode. Catch me again. Hopefully we'll be doing this daily on this platform, wherever you're watching or listening to this too. I appreciate it. Until next time, see ya.